Welcome to this lesson, Unit Specificity and it's called Importance. Uh, Exclamation importance. We are going to look at what all these mean. Okay, so CSS unit. We've been using CSS unit all through this uh, lessons. All the lessons that we've done, we've been using units all over. But units are something that specifies length, right, of uh, the width of an element, or if you want to specify margin, padding, font size, etc. Whatever the property that takes length is, you have to specify units, right? And we have many of those, right? We already talked about the margins, the patterns, etc., right? So the length is actually a number and then you follow that up with units such as pixels, em, whatever, right? And then what we also have is that we have two types of length units. We have this absolute length one, and what the absolute length unit does is it just gives you a fixed length expressed exactly as the size that is being given. For example, if you say 2 centimeters, it's a fixed length, right? So absolute length units are really fixed lengths. Doesn't It's not dependent on the size of your screens or whatever. It's just fixed, right? So we don't recommend that you use absolute length except you know what your uh, layout or your output is going to be. The medium is going to be specifically, then you can use that. Okay, so these are some examples of absolute length. We have cm, centimeters, millimeters, inches, and the in inches is simply 96 pixels if you care to know. And then we have the pixel, which is approximately 1 over 96th of an inch, right? And then you have the PT, which is the point, and that is 1 over 72 of an inch. And then you have the picus, which is 12 points. Okay, so that is the absolute uh, length, right? And you would not wanna be using this. The pixel is relative to your viewing device, so it's not really fixed, but relative to your viewing device, it is. So for uh, and it's just the 1 pixel is just one device pixel, like a one dot of the display. So that is what it implies. So that's why we use a lot of pixels because it's sort of dependent on your device. The next one that we're going to look at is the relative length, right? And the relative length specifies length relative to another length property, right? So if you wanna uh, be able to look at length based on what another element is or the container which the element is within, then that is good. And it's relative because it works pretty well on different devices. Okay, so these are the types of relative lengths that we have. We have the EM and the EX, the CH, the REM, VW, VH, VM, we want to extend the percentage, which we have been using quite often. Good. So that is your relative length. And uh, the browser supports for these ones. You can look into it, but most of the browsers will support these ones that you see. Right. Okay. And then we have the specificity. Specificity is, for example, if there are multiple CSS rules that point to a given element, right? Which one of those rules should apply, right? That's what it means, right? So the rule is the most specific one wins, and there's a that we have to look at. And this is the priority. We have 1 to 4, and I'm gonna the first one, which is the highest priority, is your inline style. So if you have an inline style, that's going to take highest priority. And then this is followed by your IDs, right? So if you have an element that is an ID, that is going to be second priority. Then you have your classes, attributes, and pseudo classes. That's going to be your third. And then finally, you have your elements and pseudo elements. So that is going to be your fourth. Again, if finally, if you have the same rule written twice in a style sheet, external style sheet, then then the lower rule in the style will be used. So, and that's the last one to be loaded, most importantly. So you would want to be mindful of that. So that's the specificity we are talking about. Okay, and then finally the exclamation important rule is used to add more priority or importance to a given property value than normal. So if you want to add more importance to it and make it override another property value, then you have to use the important rule. And uh, the important rule will override all previous styling rules for a specific property on that element. And we are going to take some quick examples of all of these. So let's go to the code section. So I have here a sample HTML with 3 paragraphs saying sample paragraph for testing. If I refresh this, it's taking a while to refresh. Okay, so there we have it, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a class name here, and I'm going to say class1, and I'm going to say, nope, I'm going to have an ID for this one, ID1. Okay, and this one would not have anything. So then now in my style, I'm going to say ID, and then I'm going to say background color should be brown. Good. And then I'm going to say dots class1. Maybe this should be ID1 class1. I want the background color should be characters. Okay. And then finally, I'm just going to have the P. I'm going to have background color being crimson, right? And maybe the brown is not, let's say, blue or violet. Okay, so they are different. Good. So I have this, right? So if I just refresh this, so let's analyze this, right? So this P got the crimson, right, color, right? And that's because it doesn't have an ID or class name, so that's fine. Now this class1 got the charters, right? That's because, and then this ID1 got the blue violet because this is ID1. Again, you can see that even though this P is the last was the last loaded style for P, it's not the one that was loaded, right? Because uh ID has a higher priority, and so it's the ID one overrides this, and the class, which is the class names one also override the P, right? So then that also stayed. Now the what we are going to do now is we want to make this one the most important, even though it's not the most important, right? So now the way we do it is just we're going to add the important to this. And then when we refresh it, so now you can see that uh, all the other P's have taken the style of this one because we put the uh, importance on this one. So now they've all been taken, they're all taking this style right here. The only way we can override this is we have to add important to all these to make them the same priority, right? And then it's gonna work as it used to. But if you just have this, this is gonna take priority over all the others. So yeah. So yeah, thank you for watching. This wasn't meant to be a coding class. I just wanted to highlight some things. But yeah, I just needed to show this so we are aware of what the important does. So thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson. Bye.